Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. We talk about the problems people face in their day to day lives. Let's start with the video.
My parents had one of the typical reasons why people get married. My mom got pregnant with me, and both my mom and dad thought getting married would be the next best step to manifest a loving relationship. Well, what they got instead was something far from it. From the moment the two got married and had me, is when the reality of adulthood hit them. They were just 21 when my mom gave birth to me. So you guys can only imagine how life must have hit them when two fresh out of college individuals got married and had children of their own without even securing a job for themselves. It indeed was very difficult, and I honestly don't blame them for how their relationship went downhill from there onwards. Because if I was as privileged as they were and had it all ripped away from me, I wouldn't be that happy either. Unfortunately, though, for my parents, their resentment towards life wasn't only taken out of their relationship, it was also taken out on me because, of course, according to them, I was the true root cause of all that had gone wrong in their lives. It all probably started when I was about one or two. Their resentment began growing towards me, and all of it was inculcated in their behavior and words towards me. All the memories I have of them from my childhood are full of them screaming at me, berating me, and whatnot. Overall, just horrible things that I can recall. Unfortunately, though, for my case, things just got worse as my mom gave birth to Alyssa. It was around when I had turned two, and since then, my life turned into hell. My parents completely stopped acknowledging my existence. It was like, at least before Alyssa was born, they would take care of my basic needs. But once she was here, that was it for them. They had a new family altogether, and to them, I had become almost non existent. I wouldn't blame Alyssa for all of this, though. I mean, I agree wholeheartedly that she was spoiled rotten, but she is at no fault for it because, after all, she was the creation of my parents. My parents would go above and beyond for her. By the time she turned 5 or 6, my parents had gotten back on their feet and started earning well. This prosperity just fed more into their belief that Alyssa was some sort of good luck for them and wasn't a sin like me because she was born after they were married. This gave them more of a reason to berate me all the while spoiling Alyssa rotten. Anything Alyssa would touch, it would become hers, while on the other hand, I had to quite literally live off of her scraps. It's needless to say that all of this had a tremendous influence on my mental health. But little did I know, this was just the beginning of it, because their behavior only worsened to the next level when Alyssa and I got into high school. They started comparing each and every achievement of hers to mine. They would put her in the finest clubs, get her the best tutors, and do absolutely everything in this world to ensure that she makes it in life, all the while making sure that all of the every opportunity I had to prosper in life was sabotaged. At this stage, the relationship between Alyssa and I had become pretty much non existent as well. I mean, she wouldn't bother me, but it was never like she tried to foster a relationship with me after clearly seeing the favoritism. It was at this stage that I decided that I had enough. I knew I had to get out, and I did as soon as I got into college. Ever since then, neither my parents nor I have ever tried to contact the other. I completely restarted my life ever since and made friends who meant more to me than family ever would. I also met my soulmate, who I have been married to for about 2 years now. I have a job, a house, and two pets, and everything had been well settled so far until this happened, and it sort of turned my world upside down. It began the moment I went over to my cousin's place along with my wife for Christmas, like we usually do. This time, however, we were aware of the fact that they were holding a huge family gathering, and we were expecting to see some family members that we wouldn't really want to see. I mean, the usual supporters of my parents and the relatives who claimed that I was a sin baby. Those were the relatives I tried to stay as far away as I possibly could. But honestly, I was okay seeing them every once in a while as long as they maintained their distance away from me. But man, I would have never guessed that this is what my cousin meant when he said everyone would be there. I still vividly remember how it all went. It's like the memory is engraved in my mind. It all began as soon as I entered my cousin's house. I was quite literally dumbfounded to see my dad standing right in front of me. He tried acting like nothing ever was wrong between us. I was too stunned to say anything to my wife, and I both made small awkward exchanges with him and my mom. I thought to myself, as long as they didn't make a huge scene, I could get through this. I obviously didn't want things to go bad for my cousin, who had gone above and beyond to arrange this gathering. But would it really be a happy gathering if my parents were present? Of course not. They would never live in peace unless they shit on something first, and that is exactly what they did, and they did during dinner. My mom started off with her sob story about Alyssa, how it had been a while since her angel fell for that demon and left them, yada yada. Honestly, I'd be lying if I didn't say I was shocked upon hearing this, but I continued to listen because everyone was surprisingly interested in their story. This is when it all went downhill. My dad, I guess, in the heat of his emotions, began complimenting me, something he hasn't done in years. He talked about how proud he was of me, how he was so amazed at my achievements and similar stuff to butter me up. I knew this was when they were going to drop the bombshell on me, and I was right. My dad, in the middle of the dinner table, straightforwardly asked me for financial support. Apparently, during the lockdown, both my mom and dad had lost their jobs, and although initially Alyssa supported them, she eventually ghosted them. It was awkward to say the least, but I knew what I had to do. I simply told them that I would definitely help them. I sugarcoated my words as much as they did to pretend that I could empathize with them. I even went as far as to get their contact information so I knew what to do once they all started blowing up my phone. Then I put my plan into action. I wrote them a check for exactly $51, and there's a reason why I did it. It's because of the fact that it is how much my dad had spent on me to send me off to college, and I still very vividly remember him telling me that now that I was 18, I owed him that. And of course, I wasn't going to let go something I owed to someone. So I mailed them the check after a couple of days of them receiving it. The texts and calls started blowing up my phone. Now, I was so sure of myself that I was doing the right thing until my wife joined the bandwagon of berating me. Currently, it's only my cousin who held the party siding with me, and now I'm confused if what I did was wrong. So, Reddit, AITA. Update 1. Here's a small update. I have decided to reach out to Alyssa and get to know the full extent of why she left. I mean, regardless of what happens, I am curious, as you guys are, over the reason why she left. That too, if my parents were so loving towards her, she had next to no reason to leave. Well, I have dropped her a Facebook message an hour ago. I haven't received a response yet, but when I do, I will definitely post an update. Update 2. A lot has happened since I last updated. Alyssa not only replied to my message, but we also ended up meeting because apparently she had a lot to say to me. I was initially very nervous, Probably because I saw Alyssa like the version of her that I knew during childhood, but boy, change would be an understatement because this woman had done a 360-degree. As soon as we met and sat down, she immediately apologized to me. It was very unexpected, and she clearly understood when I didn't forgive her immediately. She then began talking about how she was indeed spoiled rotten by our parents, but had a sense of wrong and right from an early age. That's the reason why she never spoke to me, because she believed that it was better than saying something that would potentially hurt me more. Once she got into college, she, like me, started creating her distance from our parents. It was only when she met her partner who opened her eyes to what my parents had done that she decided to completely cut them off. She had been wanting to reach out to me ever since, but was always unsure whether she should give me my space or just reach out to me. I would be lying if I denied that hearing all of this did not cause me and her to shed a few tears. It was truly an emotional moment because I was so happy to see Alyssa walk on the same path of normalcy that I am. I thanked her. She thanked me, and we hugged and went our separate ways, promising each other that we would definitely try to stay in contact. Ever since then, even with the pressure from my family, I feel like I'm even more sure of my decision to not help my parents. But I still do need to have a final conversation with my wife, which I will be updating you guys about. Update 3. I sat down with my wife today and showed her everything, the post, the conversation between Alyssa and me, and also gently reminded her about the history between my parents and me. I guess that was enough to give her a hit because she immediately apologized to me. She began tearing up and through her tears confessed to me that all of her emotions towards this situation stemmed from the fact that she found out she was pregnant. Yes, you guys read it right. I'm going to become a father, and I haven't been happier than ever. I could forgive all and everything to hear this news, and I definitely did. Only on the condition of letting her know that things would not end well if she tried to contact my parents or tried to side with them by any chance, and so far, I think she has understood. As for my parents, I have blocked them and everyone who has tried to side with them. I have come to the decision that I will never be putting up with them again, regardless of what condition I'm in. And with that, I'd like to say cheers to parenthood, building new relations, and setting new boundaries. Thank you. NTA, good on Alyssa for changing. Throughout the post, I could definitely sense that Alyssa was more sensible than your parents could ever be. I hope you guys can build a mature relationship from here onward. NTA, your parents deserve it. The relatives who are berating you can go help your parents out themselves. Good on you for finally taking a stand. Next story. This has been a reoccurring issue throughout our 6-year marriage. I, 27, female, have chronic insomnia due to a mood disorder. It is difficult for me to go to sleep with me going to bed at the earliest around 1 a.m., even though I have work at 8 a.m., Monday to Friday. I also suffer from chronic migraine, which is often worsened by the lack of sleep and mood disorder. My husband, 29, has an issue of not finding things, or, as I like to put it, not looking for things. I'm 100% not exaggerating when I say that he'll claim he'll lose something, stare at one single spot for 45 seconds, will not turn his head left or right, will not look up and down, and then claim he cannot find something that he would be able to see if he turned his head half an inch. Again, I am not exaggerating or being hyperbolic when I say this. This morning, we had the same issue we always have. Him very proudly rummaging around and disrupting my sleep. I'd finally gotten to bed around 2 a.m., looking for things that are literally right in front of him. He'd already kept waking me up in the middle of the night, so I barely got more than 3 hours tonight. But he woke me up again to ask where the lint roller was. So I had to get up to find the thing that was exactly where he left it last night. I still have hopefully 2 hours before I leave for work, so I try to go back to sleep, only for him to again try and wake me up to find the moisturizer. I tell him it's on the sink, just for him to claim it's not there. Not only is it the only moisturizer of mine I let him use from time to time, not only is it not under the sink or in the cabinet, but the brand I use is also in a very bright orange container that is unmistakable. At this point, he is still rummaging around loudly and literally full on high-pitched whining about how he can't find it and imploring me to get up. I had a migraine that lasted 72 hours from this exact same situation, and that I was finally getting over this morning on Friday, but it was starting to come back, and so I snapped and said, "If you can't find something right in front of you, I can't help you." Which made him whine some more about ruining his first day at his new job. I have divulged to my husband of 6 years about my troubles with sleep, my chronic migraine, about my mood disorder, to the point he's tired of hearing about it. But he's making it seem like I'm not considerate. It'd be one thing if I kept all of my stuff hidden away, but everything is always in very plain view. And I don't mean plain view as in I just know where it is because I put it there, but plain view as in quite literally the only way you would miss it is if you were legally blind. Maybe I'm harsh because I ended up having a migraine again, but this is an issue that has been going on for years. I feel like I'm dealing with a toddler half the time, and it feels like he doesn't want to actually look for it, but gets me to do it instead. Anyways, AITA, NTA. But the real problem is, what are you going to do about it? Because he clearly has no regard for you and your health and well-being. I mean, you could sleep in another room and lock the door, but he'd probably be pounding on the door. You could try doing it to him after he goes to sleep and making him get up and help you, and maybe he'd realize, but I don't have a lot of faith. He's flat out inconsiderate. If you were petty, and I am, I'd find ways to keep waking him up with noise or light or rummaging in drawers or dropping things in the bedroom. And then when you get into bed, wake him up to tell him good night and that you love him. And then I'd get into bed. And when he gets back to sleep and you haven't, I'd wake him up and tell him you can't sleep and keep doing it. You want to talk, you want to have sex, you're scared, you're cold, your back itches, and will he scratch it? Did he remember to empty the trash? And so on. And be bewildered by his irritation. Promise to do better, and then do it again and again. NTA. Honestly, it seems like he's torturing you. He knows that you will be in agonizing pain for days from lack of sleep, and he wakes you multiple times in a night for trivial things. He is destroying your health. This has to stop. Next story. My husband, 50, and I, 50, female, own a small restaurant. He runs the kitchen and I run the front of the house. I pay all of our household bills with the tips that I make as a waitress. Recently, one of the cooks had to have shoulder surgery and was told he would be off for 16 weeks. I gave up my 15-hour waitress shift to go in the back to cook. I asked that I be paid for those hours as a cook, since he was already paying someone those hours because I could make a lot of money as a waitress, but nothing as a cook. On the day I cook, I would have made $200 as a server. That's $400 in one pay period. And that money is what I use to pay the bills. He says he shouldn't have to pay me as I am part owner, but I say that he would be spending that same amount to pay someone else, and that is what I use to pay our bills. He doesn't pay himself, so every bill is paid by me. Edit. He controls all the finances for the business. Basically, I'm just a server in charge of other servers. He doesn't take pay to save on labor. I cook other days without being paid, but because he took me off the floor to cook for someone he was already paying, I asked to be paid for that one shift only. It's a 15-hour shift that I lost on the floor to cook. Second edit. Hey all, I just got off work and I've been reading all the comments and suggestions. There's so much stuff that I'm truly flabbergasted. I'm going to talk to one of my regulars who is a CPA and have them check things out. To be fair, I make hella money as a server there. I put 7 out of 8 of our kids through school. They've always been well taken care of, and I really am a good server. I know it seems like a strange hill to die on, but I absolutely think that since he is asking me to work where he was already paying someone else, he should give me their pay. I'm really thinking about showing him this post, and hopefully we will be able to keep moving forward. For those saying that the business is failing, I promise you it's not. When COVID hit, our projected sales were a little over $1 million for that year. As it stands now, I'm thinking we will hit about 750,000 in sales this year. We regularly update equipment and the tables and chairs, etc., and I can now see where I have been taken advantage of. One cool thing is, since I pay all the bills when we bought the house we live in, it's only in my name. So at least there's that. Thank you so much for all the help. NTA, I'm no expert, but shouldn't you pay yourself for your own time, even in your own business? This setup is all wrong. If the business is doing that badly, maybe it's time to reevaluate what you are doing.